So beautiful, thank you. And the beautiful prayer, Reverend Sue, thank you. Isn't this a great place to be? Yeah. We're so blessed. We're blessed by each person here. We're blessed by our wonderful talent. Before we get started on the talk, I wanted to just take a moment today, as Janelle mentioned, is the 15th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. And I just wanted to take a moment for us to bless the families and the memories of those over 3,000 people who passed away during that time. And so if you would join me for a moment and just going within and find that place in your heart where you can most deeply feel love, that feeling of deep love. Allow that feeling to grow. Then allow and be aware that your heart is connected to others' hearts in this room, that we are all a unit. So we become a unit of love right here. A unit of love. We take this love then and send it out to all who were touched by that tragic experience, to all those who lost their lives wherever they are now, to all the families who survived, to all the survivors who were traumatized by that experience, to the first responders, to the people who lost their lives in the Twin Towers and the Pentagon and the plane that crashed into the field in Pennsylvania, to all their families. We send that love and we hold them in this deep love that we as a community have. And just simply take a moment with open-heartedness to hold that love. We remember that that love is more powerful than the fear or the hate. That love is our natural state. And so with this love, we bless each and every person. Thank you. And so taking a moment, we have a little short video. I love the story of this tree because it symbolizes the regeneration of life. We've all had circumstances in our life where sometimes we felt like we were reduced to a stump, right? Or part of our life was. I know I have, and probably most people in here can relate to that to some degree. And yet out of that stump comes this wonderful new growth. Out of that, the caring and the love that people share, something new blossoms and generates. And so I just love the idea and the symbology and the life energy of that tree that survived, it's something so traumatic and something so difficult, and yet expresses that life. So thank you for joining me with that. In our talk today, our official talk title is Faith Without Works is Dead. I prefer the positive version of that. Faith with works is alive. Can we go with that? Faith with works is alive. Turn Paul around just a little bit here. And this comes from a vision that we have for part of our global heart vision as an overall organization, all of the Centers for Spiritual Living. And part of that says we see our communities as being meaningfully involved with service to the world. We see our communities, that's us, meaningfully involved with service to the world. And so I wanted to explore today the idea of faith and works and putting that out. So from Paul's letter, faith without works is dead is a familiar phrase to most of us. We've heard that. Some of us have been kind of beaten over the head with that one a little bit, like it's the inspiration to get out there and go do something. But I wanted to break it down and look at it slightly differently if we can. So I first want to explore faith, because if we don't have faith, there's no works to follow, right? And so we want to have some faith. We want to have that faith. And oftentimes we don't do works because we don't have the faith that the works will do anything. We don't have the faith that the works will work, right? And so in order to have that, in order to even want to start in that, see, can you imagine the people who restored that stump looked at it and said, nah, I'd have no faith. That'll never happen. Instead, they said, I have faith that we can do something with this and restore this and bring it back. So the first step when we look at faith is to direct our faith. Where do we direct our faith? Where do we aim our faith? And first of all, what is faith? Ernest Holmes gives a definition. He starts off with the definition that Paul gives, which is the faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is a mental attitude so inwardly embodied that the mind can no longer deny it. Faith is complete when it is both a conscious and subjective acceptance. Faith may be consciously generated. In spiritual terminology, faith means a belief in the presence of an invisible principle and law which directly and specifically responds to us. And he closes with a quote from Jesus, "Thy faith has made thee whole." So I want to look at that for a moment. Faith, and the reading said the same thing. Faith is an inside job, right? It's not dependent on outer stuff. Faith starts within. So faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You don't see faith, just like you don't see gravity, right? Have you noticed gravity works whether you see it or not? We see the effects of it, but we don't see gravity. You know? If I jump off the top of the building, there's no gravity that you can see, but it's going to have an effect. And it's going to be a consistent, same effect every time. Faith is the same way. It's an invisible thing that we can't see, but the evidence of it shows up. Faith, Ernest says, is a mental attitude so inwardly embodied that the mind can no longer deny it. Faith is complete when it is both a conscious and subjective acceptance. You know, I've had times in my life where I'll talk about faith, but I don't feel it. I don't feel it. Okay? And so I have to look and say, what am I really having faith in? What am I really believing? And ask myself, how can I start to make that a subjective experience? We say in religious science that a thought plus a feeling equals a result, and that feeling really is a conviction. A thought plus a conviction equals a result. And so if I don't have a conviction really deeply embodied, it's not going to equal the result that I want, or it's going to show up in a watered-down version of it. So we want to have that. And then the good news, as Ernest Holmes says, is faith may be consciously generated. Just because we don't have it at the moment doesn't mean we won't have it next moment, okay? We can consciously generate faith. In spiritual terminology, finally, faith means a belief in the presence of that invisible principle, just like gravity, and law, which directly and specifically responds to us. And our faith makes us whole. Our faith makes us whole. Our faith restores us wherever we're feeling out of sorts. So I'm going to slightly disagree with Ernest, or slightly, be a heretic, as I mentioned in the first service. Nobody stoned me in the first service for being a heretic, so I think I'm going to get through this one okay, too. I want to say that we already have all the faith we're ever going to have. We already have it all. We already have 100% faith. You can't have more faith. However, where do we put our faith? And so if I have 25% of my faith in going this way, and if I have 75% of my faith in going that way, okay, I may say that I want to go this way, but I'm not really totally in alignment with it. I can be like a light bulb, an incandescent light bulb, which just indiscriminately sends out light all over the place, scatters it out, or I can be focused like a laser and go in the direction I want. When my faith is objective and subjective, conscious and subconscious, it's in alignment, and it has that power. It has that power of the grain of mustard seed that can move a mountain, as the parable says. So what do I have my faith in? Where do I direct it? Where do I aim it? If I aim it at my fears, if I aim it at my hurts, if I aim it at my insecurities, that's what I'm going to reproduce more of, even if what I say I want is this over here. Okay? And so it's, where is my subjective faith? Where is my, at the gut level, what am I really feeling? Another way of saying consciously generated is to say consciously directed. There's another parable. I seem to be in a biblical mood this morning for some reason or other, in which there's a centurion who asked Jesus to heal his son, and Jesus said, it's done. And he says, I believe you, help with my unbelief. Help with my unbelief. Okay? We all have some unbelief going on most of the time, right? I do anyway. I'll just personally own that one. I sometimes have that. Help me with my unbelief. Help me with the areas that I don't fully believe in. Help me when my faith isn't going in the direction that I want it to go. Help me to line it up. And so that's where we start to look at it. One way to generate faith, and I'm going to talk about this, there's something I want to say about faith, because we're going to talk about a method to generate faith. But the other thing is and Reverend Sue brought it up in your wonderful story in that prayer, is that sometimes it's hard for us to have faith in something. And that's a wonderful time to lean into somebody else's faith. That's what you talked about with your story. You leaned into somebody else's faith. That's why we have practitioners and prayer partners. We have a community. We don't do this alone. When I can't quite believe it, I can lean into somebody else's who's got clear faith in that. And so it's one of the processes I want to do. I know a minister friend of mine whose daughter was in a very serious traffic accident and went with her to the hospital. And she said, I was trying to do 5-step treatment, and it took me an hour just to believe that God was all there was. Wrestling with that, trying to get that first step of the treatment going. And people said, lean into us. Let us know it, because we know it for you. You just be there with your daughter. We'll lean into that. We'll take care of that part. So lean into and be supported by other people if you need to. But the way to generate it within yourself, a way to generate it within yourself, is what we call the 5-step method of affirmative prayer that we label as spiritual mind treatment. And it's what we teach in this Power of the Word class that I'm going to be teaching starting this week. And it's a powerful process for shifting our consciousness, for shifting into the idea of absolutely firmly, clearly having faith in believing where I'm going and getting in alignment with that. Before I ever start a spiritual mind treatment, however, I prepare for it. I remember the story of Hawaiians who, the story is that they labeled white people as haulis, was the phrase they called white people. And haole means without breath. And they labeled it that way supposedly, and I'm not completely sure this is true, but it's a great story anyways. They labeled it supposedly because they saw the Christian missionaries come over, and they would just start into their prayer. They would just do their prayers in rote. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is, whatever. How many of you were Catholic like I was, and you got your penances of, 10 Our Fathers and 25 Hail Marys? Did you say each one with deep conviction and deep passion, or did you, like me, just kind of run through it, get it over with quick, okay? The Lord's Prayer is a beautiful prayer when said consciously, but what they noticed with the missionaries was they wouldn't take any time to prepare, whereas the Hawaiian people would take time to breathe and to create a space in whatever way, and to prepare themselves before they ever even started into the prayer. And so I invite us, before we ever even start into a spiritual mind treatment, to prepare ourselves in whatever way we can, to be in that centered space, to be in that calm space. So the first thing I do is to breathe and get centered. And sometimes that takes just a few breaths, and sometimes that takes a lot of breathing, right? And so to breathe and get centered. And then from whatever situation I'm facing, I step back from that situation and I ask myself, what's the highest outcome that I would like to experience with this? If I'm having a health challenge, what's the highest outcome that I want to have with this? If I'm having a relationship challenge, what's the highest outcome I'd like to have with this? If I'm having a financial challenge, what's the highest outcome I would like to have with this? I usually do a process called visioning, which taps into that spiritual knowing within us, because oftentimes our ego has an idea. Okay, our small mind that can only look so far has an idea, but if we tap into our spiritual self, it has a bigger frame of reference. It touches into the infinite, and it can come up with other ideas. One of my friends probably still does say, we would spend less time praying out of our lives that which we had just prayed into our lives. Anybody besides me ever do that? Okay. If we would take the time to vision and to get in, what is the essence? What is the core? What is it that my soul, my heart, my spirit really wants in this situation? So we get to that. We get to a clear purpose. What is it that I really want? This is the first step before we ever move into prayer, is to really know the direction, the really clear essence of what it is that I'm trying to call forward. What do I want in this situation? And then once I've done all that, then I turn away from the situation. I step away from the situation, and I remember one thing and one thing only. There is an infinite presence. Whether we call it the Tao, whether we call it God, whether we call it, whatever name we give it, Great Spirit, whatever name, it doesn't matter. There is this infinite presence. And I turn my attention to that. Because that's bigger than any situation. It's bigger than my small-minded fear. It's bigger than anything else. And so I remember that truth. I step into and remember that truth. I can't control outer circumstances, but I can control where I direct my attention. Okay? And so I direct my attention to that infinite presence, and I sit in that awareness. I focus on the highest truth of God as it relates to the situation. So if I'm in a health situation, I might be focusing on the health and the life energy and the vitality of the divine until I know that. If I'm in a relationship situation, I might be focusing on the infinite love and the harmony within Spirit. Spirit is all one. There is no person, there is no situation that is out of alignment with God, because God is in alignment with itself. It can't be against itself. If I'm having a financial situation, I might focus on the abundance and the opulence of the divine. Look in the night sky and you get to see the opulence of it. This fall we'll be able to look on our ground and see all the leaves that have fallen, and get aware of the opulence of leaves, the abundance of leaves, right? And so I focus on that opulence. I focus on that quality that I want. I focus on that infinite presence until I know it, until I feel it in my gut. And I think it and I speak it clearly until it sinks in. And then I remember that because this presence is infinite, because it's all there is, okay, I can't be outside of it. And the situation I'm facing can't be outside of it. And the person I'm upset with can't be outside of it. All of it is one. All of it is one, and I am one with it. I am an expression. The infinite presence took the time and the energy to be each of us. Got that? It's taken the time, right this second, it's taking the time and the energy and the love and the power and the grace to be you and me and the person beside you. Each of us is this infinite expression in form, uniquely. Each of us is necessary. And so I get that I'm one with this infinite presence until I truly get that I'm one with this infinite presence. Because usually when I'm living in fear, I've forgotten that. And so I have to sit with that this is all there is, and I'm one with it until I recognize that truth. And then when I'm anchored in that, when I really know that, from that I begin to speak my word of what it is that I truly want to have manifest in my life, that purpose, that essence, what it is that I truly want. And I claim it. I claim it not in the future. I claim it as so right now, because guess what? It is so right now. I had this experience last week, and Cynthia was not feeling well. She had a tooth that had cracked and had just had it extracted, I think, the Friday before. And she was not in good shape here on last Sunday when she was here. She was here, but she was not a happy camper at the moment. And I began to hold her in truth when we were just sitting there. And I realized the health and the wholeness of her, all of that was just, it was also sitting right there as her. And it was just, can I see that? Can I see past the sickness? Can I see past what's going on to the truth of the wholeness and the health that she is, always has been and always will be? And so it's like not getting fooled by the illusion. It's like, no, I see you trying to trick my attention. I'm going to look past you. I'm going past you, and I'm seeing what the real truth is in this situation. So that's what we do in this third step, and we do it until we know it. We do it until we're really, really, really clear that I know that this is the situation, that this is the truth. And it's true not somewhere off in the future, and it's not true if I do something to please somebody. It's true right now because it's just true. It always has been, it always will be. This is what Jesus said when he said, before you ask, I shall answer. The gift has already been given. It's present here and now. Your good, my good, all of our good is fully present, and we just have to kind of take off the forgetting of that and step into the remembering of what is and the awareness of what is. I find that once I do that, I move into gratitude. I get grateful because at this point, I'm feeling pretty grateful because what it is that I want, I'm so convinced and I'm so aware that it is happening, that it is moving into form right here, right now. It is blossoming, it is expressing, however long or short it takes. It is already present. We've already planted the seed, and it's like, as you know, just as surely as I plant a seed and I trust that that's going to show up as a plant, I know that this is going to show up because I planted this seed into the universe. And so I start to move into gratitude. Many of us are taught to do gratitude after the fact, right? I'm grateful for something that happened, that already happened. How about if we started our morning being grateful for the day that's unfolding? Okay? Not waiting till the end of the day to see if I have something to be grateful for. Okay? But we're grateful to, we're grateful as. And so this is the gratitude we express, is we're grateful as and for and with the thing as already done. Already done. I'm not waiting, thank you very much. What I know is in spirit it's already so, and I'm just simply, as I can open up and allow it, and as anybody else who's involved with it can open up and allow it, it starts to manifest and it is so. And finally, when I do that, I release that word, the seed that I've just planted, into what we call the action of law. And law is just simply that process that when I plant a seed in the ground, it causes the acorn to grow into an oak tree, right? It causes the tulip bulb to grow into a tulip, right? I don't know how to grow an acorn into an oak tree. I don't know how to do that. But I do know that there's a process in the universe that does. And I know that all I got to do is plant the seed and let the process take over. And so that's what we're doing when we release our word. We're planting it into the soil of this rich law that knows exactly how to bring it from this little seed that I've just planted into its full manifestation. And we're letting that go. This is what Jesus talks about when he says you have the faith of a grain of mustard seed. First of all, a grain of mustard seed is very small, as we all know, but it's also very hard, very condensed, very focused. And the inside joke with that is that mustard is a weed, right? You plant one grain of mustard seed, pretty soon you have a bush, and pretty soon that bush is seeding all over the place, and pretty soon you have a whole hillside of mustard. And then you got the the Department of Transportation coming out and eradicating it, and whatever. But that's what we do. When we plant that seed, it starts to grow and spread and grow and spread in all sorts of directions that we don't even know about. And as we trust it, we find that it's a benefit for all involved. It blesses everyone. That's where I know when Spirit is really working, when I watch, oh, this lines up for me, but it also lines up for this person over here, and it lines up for this person over here, and it lines up in this circumstance over here. I love it. And we've all experienced that when we turn it over to Spirit. After that, after we've done that process, what I find is I'm almost impelled to act. There's like something that wants to come through. There's something that says, do something in alignment with that. Now, there's another way to act, and that is, I don't trust this, so I'm going to manipulate this little seed. I'm going to dig it up, see how it's doing, and help it along. Okay, that's not the kind of action we're talking about. That comes out of fear or doubt. But there's an action where if I sit with that, I may suddenly have an idea. I should talk to this person. I should go to this place. I should do this activity. And we start to listen to that. We start to and it's gentle, and it's easy. And we start to follow that. And we start to connect with somebody. And then that person connects us with somebody else. And pretty soon, all of a sudden, out of the blue, we're connecting with what we want. But we do have to do this action. This is the faith without works. Faith without following it up with the action. That's why Christian Larson says faith is not a passive sitting around feeling something. It also involves that we move in alignment with our faith. We move in alignment with the faith. Not trying to force something to happen, but move in alignment. See, a man who's in a jail cell and wants freedom can find that the door is unlocked, right? But he still has to get up, open the door, and walk out, right? And so we still have to get up once we've done this, once we've set this consciousness, and then walk out from the prison that we've been in before and step into the new freedom we want. And that's the activity. That's the activity. So if we're looking to create a world that works for all, we have to walk out of the old way that it doesn't work and step into doing something that does work. Doing something in our communities, doing something in the world that does work out of faith, knowing that it matters, knowing that it makes a difference for us. So faith with works is alive. So this week what I want to invite us to do is three things. The first is I want us to identify a place where we feel called. If you know that there's something that's been kind of calling you to do something, to be something, to move in a direction, to help to create a world that works for all, to help to create a center that works for all, to help to create a house that works for all, whatever it is for you, to help you create a body that works for you. Whatever it is for you. Just notice it. Just identify a place where you feel called. And then the second step is to begin to build your faith. Begin to aim your faith in the direction you want to go. And start to let go of where it doesn't work, where it's pulling you away. Using that wonderful process we just talked about. If you're not sure about that, lean into somebody else's. If you're not sure about that, take a class, here we have several. Then finally, the third step is to allow the energy of your faith to move you. As you build that faith, as you feel that call, as you build your faith that I can do this call, allow it to move you out to where you actually do something and take that in. Ask yourself and ask Spirit within you, what is mine to do here? What is mine to do here? And another powerful question is, who must I become to do this? If I want to live in a world that works for all, who must I become in this world? And allow yourself to sit in that. So are you willing? I'm going to play with this. Are you willing to play with this with me for these three practices? We're identifying a place where you feel called. We're beginning to build or aim our faith, and we're allowing the energy of that faith to move us forward. Great. Thank you. Me too. Got a couple places in my life where, as I told Sue this morning in the first talk, this talk is actually for me. Because I've got a couple places that are challenging my faith right now. So we're moving forward with that. I'm going to close with a quote from Christian Larson. To live in this faith is to live in perfect peace. We are never disturbed about any threatening circumstance. We are never fearful or afraid anymore. We know that the door will open when the time comes. We shall surely have what we need, enough to supply the greatest possible need. Having done our part, we know that God will not fail in its part. All things are yours now, and that now is an eternal now, right now. Let's move into prayer. And so there is that just eternal now. God's timing is always now. My friend Michael Beckwith says, tomorrow is just more of God's today. And right in that now moment, right in this now moment, there is this infinite presence of love, of abundant good, of life energy, of vitality, of creativity, of wisdom, of all that true nature of the divine. This is present here now. Fully, completely, totally, all of God is present in every moment of space and time. All of it. And each of us is one of that. Each of us is one of this infinite presence. There is not a single part of us that is separate from that one. Not a single aspect. Not a single detail that is separate from that one infinite presence. And so I speak my word that we open our hearts, we open our minds, we open our spiritual awareness to become aware of that which already is. Our magnificence, our glory. We stand in that power of faith, which is simply choosing to be that place where the true nature of God shows up. Letting go of our fears, letting go of what will other people say, letting go of I'm not good enough for that, letting go of all that stuff and allowing ourselves to simply aim our faith in the direction of the knowing with great power, with great conviction that I am one of the Most High, an expression of it. And I allow that essence to move through me. And then I allow myself to be moved by this essence in my own life, my unique individualized expression of the divine. I allow that to move me. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for remembering this truth. I'm grateful for this awareness. I'm grateful for the movement that is happening. I'm grateful for the Spirit that moves through all of us. And I release this word I plant this seed and let it go into the ground of the law, into the growing process of the law, knowing that it knows exactly how to beautifully, powerfully, clearly manifest it in my life right here and right now. I let this be, knowing it is so. And we affirm this together by saying, and so it is. Bless you. Thank you.